Welcome to a special monthly edition of Spirit Journey Collective, where we step away from interviews and dive deep into the collective energies of the upcoming month. For those who do not know, I am an intuitive tarot reader and spiritual channel. This episode will be focused on exploring the energies of the month ahead, such as themes, both good and challenging areas to be mindful of, as well as a channeled higher self message overall. As this is a collective reading, it is important to always remember to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. It is my belief that if you are tuning in today, it is because there is some form of guidance and wisdom waiting for you. But it doesn't mean the entire reading will resonate, although it may. My name is Sarah Ty, and I am your host and channeler for the upcoming reading ahead. And without further ado, let's dive in. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Spirit Journey Collective. This is a special episode as it's going to be a monthly collective reading instead of my typical interviews that most often you'll find on my podcast. So this episode is going to be focused on the energies of the upcoming month ahead. We're going to focus on a theme. We're going to focus on what can be working for you energetically, what is a challenge energy to be mindful of energetically, and then a higher self message overall. And then just a reminder as well, because if you happen to listen to January, I also pulled an anchor card for the year of 2025, and that's going to play a role in this reading as well. If you happen to miss the January reading, then you can go ahead and go back and listen to it, so you can hear what I shared about the anchor card. But I'll go ahead and do a quick description of the anchor card. So you don't necessarily have to go back and listen, but if you want a little more details around this card, that's where you'll find it. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with the anchor, which is the Nine of Cups. So I loved this, and it came up reversed. I really loved this because what I picked up from that is that as a collective for the year of 2025, we're really being invited to dream big, to actually believe things are possible, to stay open enough to let opportunities be received. And that can be hard, especially if you've had disappointing experiences in the past that made you closed off, that made you afraid to dream big, to get your hopes up, to allow yourself to really believe anything can happen. If you experienced something in the past where your dreams were dashed, as an example, then you might have closed off and then you didn't want anything else in because you didn't want to feel that pain of disappointment again. So you just walled off and decided to stay practical and keep yourself small and stay limited. And the invitation around the Nine of Cups is stay open regardless. So even if, let's say, you have this opportunity and you're really excited about it and it seems really promising, and then all of a sudden the door on that opportunity closes, in that moment, the biggest invitation is to keep your heart open and trust that that door closed because another one is meant to open. This is super important because it allows us to still be willing to receive the next thing. But if we close off and we immediately give up and assume that there's nothing else better for us, then the universe can't give us what's waiting on the other side, what's waiting in that next door. So a lot of our invitation for the whole year of 2025 is learning how to be open, learning how to dream big, learning how to believe things are possible, and allowing those wishes to feel like they will be possible, and releasing the expectations of how they'll get here. Because I think that that's a lot of our downfall, is we think the only way we're going to get it is if it comes in a certain way, if it's all packaged up and it's exactly how we expect, exactly how we imagined, which is why when we might think this one opportunity is the right doorway and it closes on us, that's when we could feel powerless. That's when we could feel like, oh my gosh, my expectations were failed, it didn't work out, and then you shut down. But the truth is, we don't know how we're going to get to that thing we're desiring. So when we surrender and we dream big and we allow ourselves to believe anything is possible, but release the expectations of the how, that's how now we're allowing the universe to work its magic and bring the right people in our lives, bring the right opportunities, and trusting that if one opportunity didn't work out, it's just because we were supposed to learn something from it, but now there's something better coming to take its place. We have to believe it's possible. So that is our anchor for the year 2025. And in a lot of ways, I can already see how these cards are
speaking a lot to that energy. So I'll go ahead and start with the theme, which is the Page of Cups. I love this card. It's and it speaks so directly to the Nine of Cups energy. The Page of Cups is all about reconnecting with your inner child. It's about reconnecting with little you and letting yourself play. So, if you're wondering how that correlates to the Nine of Cups energy, think about kids, right? They don't have glass ceilings in their heads. If they want something, if they dream, about it, unless something comes and smashes their dreams and really just traumatizes them in that arena, most kids believe anything can happen, and they fantasize, they imagine, they create as they go. They're little manifestors, really. If you ever watch a little kid playing pretend, they don't know where the story's going. They're just seeing what happens and how it unfolds in the moment. They're so present. And so with the Page of Cups, the invitation is, how can you be more present? How can you be more connected with your inner child in the sense of your inner play? I mean, it's so funny because as we become adults, we forget to play. We forget that that's so important for our soul. And, we still have little versions of us in here that wants to play, that wants to be creative and imaginative. And that doesn't mean you have to grab a paintbrush or anything like that, because not everyone is creative in that way. But there's so many ways that we can tap into the things that we enjoy, the things that is like a creative outlet of sorts, and letting yourselves imagine and just see where it takes us. So our theme is, how can we tap into that inner child energy, which allows us to be creative and imaginative and allows us to be so present that our fears and our worries are really just not in the picture. Because if you think about worries and fears and anxieties, which tend to be a very big reason why many of us are afraid to let the Nine of Cups energy in. It's why we're afraid to get our hopes up. It's why we're afraid to be open enough to wait and receive the thing that we really desire. A lot of it's fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment on some level. Fear exists when we're thinking too much about the past and what has happened to us, and the evidence that supports these ideas that we can't have what we desire, or our future that hasn't unfolded, that we can never predict to a T. And if you think about it, anytime you've imagined like a trip or a big event and you imagined it, you're like, oh, I can't wait for this event to come. Did it ever turn out the way that you imagined in your head? I mean, I'm talking about the details. I'm talking about the setup of the room. I'm talking about the vibe of the room, the vibe of the event. Did it ever turn out exactly the way you imagined? No, it doesn't. It never does, because we can, think about what we think will happen, but in the actual moment and when it unfolds in real time, it turns out very different than how we imagined. When we're caught up in the future, we're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet and most likely won't even turn out the way that we're thinking it will in our heads. And of course, our minds love to blow things out of proportion. So it's like turning a mountain into a molehill, basically. But when we're present, though, when we're really here in the moment and being in touch with our joy, being in touch with our creative expression, not worried about what happened yesterday and what's coming tomorrow, when we're just present, now we're opening ourselves up to surrender. We're opening ourselves up to believe in possibilities, because when you're present, there's nothing else but now. And in the right now, anything is possible. Our theme is, how can we reconnect with our inner child? How can we reconnect with our play? Find the things that just light us up, that bring us joy, that bring us happiness. And this could be a number of different things. It could be playing board games with your family. It could be grabbing a paintbrush and a canvas, right? It could be music. It could be dancing. I mean, how often do you play music and sing at the top of your lungs and just dance and groove to it? How often do you do that? I know many of us, even when we're by ourselves in our own room, sometimes we're too self-conscious to just let go and just feel the music and just move in and dance. So how can you express yourself creatively this month? How can you reconnect with your inner child and inner joy and find the things, as minor as they might be, as small as they might be, reconnect with that joy, reconnect with your play. reconnect with that feeling of being in the here and the now without any worries on the past or the future, because neither of those exist anymore. Either they're gone and they'll never exist again in that way, or they haven't come yet, so they don't exist at all yet. So how can we be present? So moving on to a positive aspect for the month of February, we have the 10 of Wands reversed. So I love this because while in general it's not necessarily the most positive card, especially for being in the positive aspect, which I find super interesting when this happens, but it does speak to what can be done about it. And there's already some kind of awareness around this, which allows us to take action and do something about it. And I think that's why it's sitting in the positive aspect, because I think if you're listening to this, most likely this is something you're already starting to do, whether it's a very minor first step or you're just thinking about it, but you're actually starting to move in the direction of action, which is going to help clear up some space for you. So the 10 of Wands upright speaks to overwhelm. It speaks to having way too much on your plate, way too many responsibilities, way too many. It could even be your traumas and triggers that are popping up and showing their ugly heads. It could be just keeping yourself so busy, there's no space to find your joy, to find your play, right? Or even to dream big, because sometimes we keep ourselves so busy, there's just no space to even get our hopes up. So we don't even bother doing that. So the 10 of Wands, it speaks to feeling like there's just too much going on, too much on our plate, too much responsibility. And so what comes with that is this invitation to take inventory, to figure out what's going on in your life that you want to keep putting energy into, that you have space for, and then putting down what you don't. So maybe you have responsibilities that or places that you're pouring your energy into that are draining you, that aren't doing anything for you, they're not serving you at all, that you don't need to keep carrying, that you can put down. Or maybe if it is a responsibility that needs to be handled, but it feels a bit much, how can you delegate it and ask for help? So that way, again, you're not feeling overwhelmed by the space. So, really, the biggest invitation on the 10 of Wands is looking at everything you've got going on energetically, whether it's a physical responsibility or it's an energetic limiting belief or trauma or trigger or something like that. Look at everything you're carrying and figure out what you really need and what you can actually put down. And so I love that this is in the positive aspect because, and it's reverse, which speaks to awareness. So this tells me that the positive aspect of February is that you already kind of know that you've got too much going on. You already know that it's a bit overwhelming. You already know that if someone were to try and add something else to your plate, there's a good chance you're not going to say yes right away. There's a good chance you're going to sit with it and really ask yourself, do I have the space and the energy to take this on? The good thing around awareness is that now there's something you could do about it. Now there's action that you can take around it. And so the positive aspect is literally saying, yes, do that. Take the inventory, make space. And the beautiful thing about making space is when it comes to like play, when it comes to believing in bigger things or working towards your dreams, you need to have the space to do that. Whether it's 10 minutes a day, an hour a day, 20 minutes a day, taking time for you. And especially with Page of Cups here, I really feel like this is saying find your play, find your joy, find that inner child that believes anything is possible and reconnect with him or her. And when you do that, it's going to be a lot easier to tap into that Nine of Cups energy, which is literally the believing in the wishes, believing in the dreams, believing that it's going to come one way or another, and you're going to stay open and surrender to how it's going to play out. And in order to do those two things, you have to make space for that. You have to make space in your schedule, make space in your day, even if it's just affirmations, even if it's meditation, even if it's painting or dancing or whatever it is that's going to bring you joy in that play. How can you make space for it? And I do feel like if you're listening right now, and of course, I always say take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But because this is showing up in the positive aspect reversed, that tells me if you're listening right now, likely you're already aware that you're overwhelmed. You're already aware there's something that has to be done about it. So now, how can you use that awareness to help benefit you in moving in the direction you want to go? And then moving into the challenged area for the month of February, we have the Eight of Cups. So I think this one is directly speaking to the 10 of Wands and releasing. So releasing some things that no longer serve you in some way. The Eight of Cups, it's emotionally moving away from something that no longer serves you. And it's not an easy thing to release. It's something you know once you release it, there's something better waiting on the other side. You kind of know that you're up leveling in a way, but emotionally you're still very attached to the thing that you're letting go. And so it's not an easy decision. It's one that you know needs to be done. And I feel like this is directly tied into the Ten of Wands as far as like, what do you need to release in order to make space for your joy and for your play and for believing in bigger things for yourself? What needs to go? And even limiting beliefs, as counterintuitive as it might sound, there's a comfort connected to our limiting beliefs because they've been with us for most of our lives and they've protected us, right? Like even though they held us back and they told us lies and they were not helpful really in the long run, there was like a security blanket that came with that because we chose those limiting beliefs as a as a defense mechanism to let us play small, to keep us safe. So there is still a security blanket that kind of comes with these limiting beliefs, for example. So even releasing these beliefs, knowing that they don't serve you anymore, there's still a reason that they were there to begin with. And so it's not so easy to just let go, even if you know what's going on the other side is confidence and trust in yourself and, believing things are possible. Like it's a process. So a challenging aspect is basically holding on to things that we know needs to go, that we know is no longer doing us any good, that we know, even though there might be a security blanket energy to it, it's really time to thank it for what it was there to do and then release it, compost it. Imagine taking all that energy and giving it back and using it on the back end of our growth. So it's not necessarily we don't have to like say goodbye forever, but we're saying goodbye to allowing it to continue to control us and wreak havoc. So be mindful of the things that you know needs to go. And then if it's hard, if it's a big emotional decision and you feel yourself holding on instead of letting go, get curious about where that's coming from and understand that the biggest process right now is to grow, is to move forward, is to let go and release. So that way you can move on to the next thing that's really it's going to give you what closer to what you're looking for and get you into a better spot than you're at now. But just know that the emotional decision is not going to be easy. So be gentle with yourself. Get curious as to where some of the desire to cling is coming from and focus on releasing instead of getting caught and stuck there. And then our higher self message overall is the Chariot. I love this. Chariot speaks to it speaks to growth. It speaks to taking up space, rising to the occasion. A lot of what's coming up here is a lot of invitation to dream bigger, imagine more, be creative, believe in possibilities, right? Which a lot of that is not easy to do, especially when we have limiting beliefs that are constantly trying to shut those big dreams down. So, a big part of the growth is mindset shifting and opening our heart chakra and opening our heart space and letting things in on all levels and trusting that everything's happening for us, not to us. And in order to do that, it does call for us to rise to the occasion and evolve. I feel like for the month of February, it's just saying emotionally, we're letting go of beliefs that don't serve us. Emotionally, we're choosing something that's going to serve us better than what's gone. We're choosing to make space to do this work and to find our play and our joy. The thing about the Chariot is that it's a choice. It's not saying you have to grow. It's not saying you have to do any of the invitations on the table here. You don't have to. I like to use the analogy of a crab with Chariot. So if you put a crab in a small terrarium, it's not going to grow. It might move from one shell to the next, and that's about the same size, but it's not going to grow. You put a crab in the ocean, now it has the choice to grow. And so once the shell starts getting really cramped, it might be a homey shell that it's been in for a long time, but most likely that crab's going to leave behind the shell and go find a bigger one and not be afraid of that. And so, in order to answer the invitations that are coming through, we need to choose a bigger shell. We need to choose to step into our power, how to command the room, essentially. But in order to do that, we have to rise to the occasion and choose something different, even if it's scary, even because most evolution comes with growing pains. Actually, no, all evolution comes with growing pains. And so you have the choice. You have the choice of choosing the bigger shell, which then invites you into thinking bigger, believing in possibilities, knowing that whatever's happening is happening for you. So even if a door closes, it's just because another one is coming, it's going to open. It's going to be so much better than the one that you thought you wanted, right? Getting in touch with your inner child. And again, having that sense of imagination, wonderment. I mean, have you ever seen a child see something that just blows their mind, like a magician or going to an amusement park or something? They light up and they just soak it all in because they're living so presently, and it's just wonderment. It's magical because there's nothing else other than right then and there and everything that's happening around them. How can you tap into your inner wonderment? How can you tap into that place where everything, moment to moment, is just so incredible, like a child would look at it? So that's part of the journey. And then, of course, like I said, making space to do this work, making space to choose to grow and believe in possibilities and believe in your dreams, and knowing that there's nothing stopping you from receiving it, but you do have to trust the process and believe it is possible. There's this quote that's coming to mind right now. I can't remember who says the quote, but the quote is, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Beliefs are powerful. If you believe that you're going to reach a certain thing that you desire, whether it's a new relationship, whether it's a career change, or starting a new hobby that you never thought you could do, but you've always wanted to try. I mean, whatever it is, right? If you believe right off the bat that it's not possible for you, it's going to be a lot harder for you to reach that. But if you go into it and you believe, okay, I can get this thing I'm really desiring, there's no reason why I can't connect with it, why I can't experience it. But I'm going to trust in higher power on how we get there. I'm going to surrender to the process of knowing that if one door, an opportunity that I really wanted closed, it's only because something better is coming. So I'm going to stay open and believe in it and allow myself to receive it. Because if we wall off, there's nothing else to receive because there's no way in. So I feel like as a whole, February, it's just inviting us into how we can be more open, how we can allow more of those big dreams into our lives. Play, inner child presence, making the space for it, emotionally releasing what no longer serves us, and choosing to grow, to rise to the occasion, and to take up the space that is our birthright. We all deserve to take up space. No one here should be playing small. That's not what we came here to do. I hope that this resonated and gave you direction and guidance, and I will connect with you all back in March.
Are you in the need of guidance around love, career, family, life, or purpose? Embark on a spiritual journey inward with an intuitive tarot reading. Depending on what you're needing and looking for, I offer private one-on-one sessions as well as personalized email readings. It doesn't matter what the question is. A reading with me provides connection with your higher self, offering curated personal messages, or what I like to refer to as spiritual roadmaps, guiding you to the future outcome you desire. Readings are insightful and affordable. If you'd like more information or to schedule a reading with me, please see the link below. Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.